Ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls, humanoids of all descriptions, welcome to the channel. This week we're back in the basement train room, and at the end of last month's train video I said I was going to show you my next big project, and it's a pretty big one. As you can see, let me loosen you guys up a little bit. You're looking at the basement wall and the backside of the town area that I showed you in the layout tour. You're also looking at what looks like a floor, because it is. This part of the layout is a raised mushroom. Not because I keep it in the dark and feed it crap. So my next big project is this part of the floor, raised floor, is finished. Well, there's going to be another one over here. So I have to finish out the framing here, and because the track will come back along this wall here that doesn't exist yet, I'm going to need to have a bridge from this corner spanning the 4-foot aisleway. And so that's going to mean a river area and a gorge with actually 2 bridges crossing it. So I'm going to have to cover the back of this here with masonite, tempered hardboard, which, as it comes from the lumber yard, looks like this. It's a paper product, comes in several thicknesses. This is 1/8 inch. It's got this nice smooth side on one side. It takes paint and primer very nicely, and on the other side it's rough. Let me see if we can get you some focus there. And that side takes adhesives very nicely. So bridging is one of my both least favorite projects and one that's the most satisfying. Now onto the problem that I mentioned in last month's video. So I used a product from a reputable company as the pad for Lakeport Yard, and it just doesn't support the excellent Caboose Industries ground throws very well. Well, as you can see, again, we'll give you a little focus here. I've used a pencil and a speed square, and this masonite is going to be cut into small squares like this, and I'm going to take an X-Acto knife, a putty knife, a small hammer, some 1/4 inch nails, and a pin vise and miniature drills, and I'm going to place these every place there's going to be a ground throw. So let's shut the camera off, move you over to someplace where that's already been done, and you can get a look at how that works. So this is a square of masonite, also called tempered hardboard. It's been nailed down, and it has a Caboose Industries ground throw nailed to it, and it's butted right up against the ties, and it's very smooth in operation, and it doesn't over travel, doesn't make any inappropriate sounds, it doesn't rattle, and most importantly, it holds the points very firmly against the stock rails. So if we take this grain hopper it moves nice and smoothly through the turnout. And there's absolutely nothing to complain about here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put on my hearing protection and some safety glasses. I'm going to fire up the circular saw. Without deleting any of my digits, I'm going to make some small squares of this stuff. And then we're going to come back. We're going to move the camera and the ring light up to Lakeport Yard, and I'm actually going to replace one of these for you. And so this is the location where we're going to install this piece of masonite, also called tempered hardboard. So the tools: an X-Acto knife, a putty knife, pin vise, and hopefully you can all get enough focus here. This is actually a drill bit in the pin vise. Let me see if I can get you some. I have a small ball peen hammer, and for pulling the 1/4-inch nails, I have a multi-tool. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull these. And we're going to go ahead and put that piece of masonite right up against the ties. And we're going to go ahead and cut right down to the plywood. Take my putty knife, scrape underneath, and just gently insert the tip of my X-Acto knife underneath the turnout's throw bar. And it comes right out. I'm going to go ahead and install a piece of masonite. I'm going to drill a hole at each one of the 4 corners. Remember, if you've never dealt with a pin vise in these miniature twist drills before, the drills can be very fragile. They're only about the size of a sewing needle. You can feel and hear that I've made it through to the plywood. I'm just putting basically the weight of my hand. I'm not pushing down. And we'll just get ourselves through here. There we go. We only need to do 2 of those on camera. So I'm going to take my little nails. I'm going to hold them in place with the pliers on the multi-tool. We'll do each corner. And I'll bring you guys back in a minute. So I've nailed down the piece of masonite, and I've centered the points, as you can see, and I've put, just with a little finger pressure, I've put a little nail keeping the points centered between the stock rails. And that's going to help as I reinstall the ground throw. The ground throw is positioned with the lever straight up and down. So now I'm going to, again, without disturbing the ground throw, I'm going to go ahead and drill myself a starter hole. And I didn't go deep enough. Go. Again, this is a very tight space. Two of these nails is all it takes. There we go. We'll pull out that nail from the center. And as you can see, this now works exactly the way it should. So that's how I'm going to solve this problem here in Lakeport Yard. We'll bring you back in a minute when we've moved to the other end of the yard, and I'm going to show you my solution for moving those track switches around to get rid of my S-curves that I talked about in last month's railroad video. So I've prepped the area to move these turnouts. I've gone through with my multi-tool and I've pulled up all of the track spikes. I've gone underneath track out here on the main that has to be moved. And at the time that I laid this track, there was a lot of push for people to use construction adhesive to glue their track down, which I'm frankly not ever going to do again. I tried it in a small area and it's just not worth the effort. So I've pulled up the track spikes and I've also removed two of the Caboose Industries ground throws, one from this turnout and one from this turnout. Well, three. 1, 2, 3. And what's going to happen next, I'm going to put on these safety glasses and I'm going to use a rotary tool, a Dremel, to cut the track so I can switch this crossover and this crossover end to end. And then move these two turnouts back here as well. And then these two turnouts will come with these two. The ceramic cutoff wheels used in Dremel tools and other high velocity rotary tools are very thin and they're excellent for cutting things like track, but they can shatter, sending shards of ceramic in all kinds of unpredictable directions. You do need to wear eye protection. It's also not a bad idea to wear hearing protection, not so much because they're terribly loud, but because the sound is very high pitched. So I'm going to cut the track and then I'm going to turn you guys back on and we'll start moving things around. So here we are. I've taken out this set of crossovers and this double crossover here, and frankly there's some carnage here, and as you can see. And I've also elected to remove this piece of flex track from one of the switching leads. The tie strip is damaged. I've got plenty of more Code 83 flex track. So my next thing that I'm going to have to do is unsolder all the rail joints from between these turnouts. As I get that done, as I said, the turnout that came from the south main track to the north main track will move from over here to down at that end. And that way I can get over here under the north main, I can get all the equipment straightened out, and then move from the north main to the switching lead for the arrival and departure tracks without having that terrible S-curve. And so when I'm ready to start reinstalling track, I'll bring you back. Finally, we're back. After several days of language that's not fit for print, I managed to get all the tie strips up for these turnouts without damaging them and without giving myself any puncture wounds or lacerations. After some considerable work and several days when I couldn't turn the camera on because there was so much water running into the sump crock that you could hear it trickling, I finally got this job finished. So I've got 3 89-foot auto racks here. The number 10 double crossovers have been moved to the west a good 1.5 feet. This number 8 has been moved about as far. And these 2 number 6 turnouts have been moved about a foot. On the one hand, it's no longer possible to go from the north main track directly into the north switching lead onto the runaround and into the locomotive service facility. However, trains coming from the west will end up with their locomotives next to the service facility anyway. They can cut off the train and they can use the tracks up there. There is a way to maneuver around. So I'm going to take these 3 auto racks. I'm going to go from the south main track to the north main track, directly into the arrival departure track. No derailment, no binding, nice and smooth. So mission accomplished there. Move a little farther forward. We'll come back as if we were going to switch from both ends of the yard. And we'll see what happens here. Again, these are technically still S-curves, but they've been stretched out far enough that they're no longer an issue. So next month, with any luck with the weather, I'll be able to get some more lumber down here into the basement, and we'll continue on with the second part of the mushroom and the area where the bridge will be, and I'll show you the kits that I'm going to start off with. And until then, thanks for watching.